2016 and 2017, the cake business actually bloomed. But in 2018, I had to pack it up literally. I had a major life change, and because this business was very structureless, it couldn't survive the life change that I had. I remember feeling so much like a failure because that was not my first attempt at business. That was actually my thought. And I felt so bad. I felt this business thing is not for me and all of that. I don't just have the skills. But after a while, I began to look around and I discovered that I was not the only one losing business. I saw that my friends were losing business. And then I started reading up. And then I was surprised to find the research that actually showed that as at 2018, 80% of small businesses in Nigeria actually pack up in the first 5 years. It made sense to me because I had seen a lot of this already. It just made sense like, oh, it's not just me, it's not just my friends, it's a general issue. But I was asking myself a question. If 80% were failing, how are the 20% succeeding in that sense? What are they doing differently? What did they know that the 80% don't know? It was in the bid of this question that I started asking myself, is there a way to connect the 20% to the 80%? Is there a way to get the people whose businesses were at least still surviving, even in the struggling environment? Was there a way to sort of get them to mentor the other people in the 80% category, sort of share the knowledge that they have? That was how One Foundation actually started. I remember in 2018, we started as Grassroots Business Hub. That was the first name we were bearing. That was before we actually officially did our CAC registration. I remember when we started, we actually started with a survey for 40 entrepreneurs then that were scattered across many places in Nigeria. We were asking them certain questions to sort of validate the problem. We didn't just want to start and just assume the problem only from research. We wanted to know from other people, from actual people who were doing businesses. And the survey confirmed that it was a real issue, that people actually needed entrepreneurial development skills that they don't have. And then I remember that we did our first entrepreneurial development session in 2018, May 5, which became our anniversary actually. We invited 12 entrepreneurs, 12 of those 40 for an entrepreneurial development session. We had a speaker and it was so good, and the feedback we got was so great. We began to see that this was actually needed, and we had a lot of feedback of people saying we need to do this again and again. And then with time we started meeting bi-monthly. And then later, after a while, we had to add one more program so that it would be like one program happened this month, the next program happened next month, and things like that. Later, we had to add a digital community to provide like an ongoing resource that people can have again and again, even when they are not in programs. And that was how we evolved.
And the foundation that began on the 5th of May 2018, 5 years ago, has impacted over 3,000 young entrepreneurs. Here are a few of them.
Hello, I'm Olajumoke Abimbola Adedeji. I'm a food scientist, a teacher, as well as a gardener. I'm the founder of Maya's Traditional Foods and Spices, as well as a co-founder of Dinewise Cafe, a breakfast and food outlet in the University of Ibadan, Nigeria.
My name is Michael Aduragbemi Adeyemi. I run SmartX.
My name is Bodun Riotu. I'm the creative director and the CEO of British Delight Limited.
Dinewise Cafe is actually a breakfast point where people and students come around to eat healthy meals and affordable food.
SmartX is a digital currency exchange platform with customers in over 7 countries internationally.
British Delight is a creative and versatile brand that serves hygienically prepared and well-garnished non-alcoholic cocktails at various corporate, social, and intimate events.
It started as a youth adventure for us to see how we can provide something affordable and healthy for students on the campus, and it's already a big dream coming true. We decided to take the food space and not leave the food space for non-professionals, because as a food scientist, I know that food is life, and we cannot treat it as anything less than that. So this is why we've decided to take the food space and provide life to people that come to us to buy food.
There is always this belief that we should be passionate about whatever we do. Firstly, I started SmartX because I actually needed funds to fund my passion. So that's why I actually delved into SmartX.
2019, we had our first event. At that time, I just knew that apart from knowing 1 or 2 recipes, I needed to improve my knowledge. Of course, I took some courses, but I just also knew that I needed to get some formal, knowledge from people who are better informed about entrepreneurship. And luckily for me, I just came across the basic entrepreneurial program of One Foundation, and I signed up for it.
I've been a part of One Foundation from the very beginning since its inception, and I can say that One Foundation has contributed a lot to my personal growth as well as my business development. For my business, through One Foundation, I've been able to leverage on networks, on friendship, I've been able to leverage on mentorship as well. I learned the act of collaboration and I was able to gain a boost of confidence from mentorship. I was part of the first participants of the one-on-one mentorship, and thankfully I was paired with a great mentor who not only nurtured my business growth but also nurtured my personal development. And through that, I realized that nothing could actually stop me if I was willing to do the job.
The journey has been amazing. In fact, I've really learned a lot of stuff from the place of patience to many other things that business people learn in business. I've had starting from BEP, one-on-one, countdown to capital, and one consult.
I was a member of Quad 5, and at that point, I just knew that there was a lot, to be learned. And of course, I started learning. Now, one of the things the basic entrepreneurship program did for me is that it helped me to prepare my business model canvas. Prior to that time, I did not even know who my customer segment was. I did not know my business model. I did not know who my target audience was. I did not know many things. So they gave us a template, but I needed to Google what answers and all of those things. In the process of doing all of those research, it helped me to define my business. So I now knew that not everybody was my client. But the BEP helped me to design a brochure, which we now send to some of our prospective clients. BEP also helped us to put some structures in business. Thank you to BEP for all of the knowledge we learned.
Also got different contracts and opportunities from One Foundation, and so far I would say it has been a contributing factor to my growth, to my expansion, and to exposure in the business world.
Countdown to Capital, I can never forget that program, for real. In Countdown to Capital, I really learned how to apply for funding, how to position my business for funding opportunities, how to prepare my books, the importance of bookkeeping, and so many other things. And the legal part of the business, you should not just do business for doing sake. The CSC registration, before you partner with something, the things you need to put in place in order not to put yourself in trouble.
And this was one of the reasons I came back for the Countdown to Capital project, because I knew that I got value. In fact, I don't think we paid for that BEP program. It was just maybe a little commitment fee just so that we can be serious. I learned a lot of things. I learned how to access funds. I learned how to pitch to my business.
One Foundation has not only been an organization, it has been a home, it has been a family, it has been a place where you can actually be together as a team, not just for the growth of the organization, but for the growth of everyone involved in the organization. Thank you.
I'm Prince David Adioye, the Executive Director of Oak Nation Entrepreneur Foundation. What we have found out in our 5 years of work among the entrepreneurs is that in providing entrepreneurial education, mentorship, and associated services that are non-financial services especially, the majority of people that are attracted to this kind of value are youth that are internet users. And in our work, we found out that 58% of these very persons that are attracted to us are business owners, while 42% are interested in entrepreneurial education, mentorship, and a community life, but then they have no businesses. Perhaps they are interested.
All right, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. Okay, good evening and thank you for joining us. You're welcome to Open Business webinar of Oak Nation Entrepreneur Foundation. In case you're wondering what video just finished playing, that's the 5th year documentary of the foundation. That's the documentary of our work over the last 5 years of our existence. We clocked 5 May 2023. All right. Thank you so very much for joining us, wherever you're joining us from, be it on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn. Sorry, we are not able to stream live to our Twitter at the moment, but you can join us in on YouTube and LinkedIn. We are live there and on Facebook. Thank you so very much for joining us for this webinar. Thank you very much. All right about now, we'll start. We do not want to waste time. We are just going to go straight to the welcome address. The executive director of the foundation, the person of Prince David Adere, is on board. He's going to give us the welcome address. You're welcome, sir.
Tolu, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. On behalf of the team, the board of trustees, and One Foundation family worldwide, I want to welcome every one of us to this webinar on business taxation and formalization. We know so well that without mincing words, this is a topical issue, and this is very, very, very necessary at this time of in this time of in the nation, especially when we have low tax return with its resultant effect on how businesses are complying, and as well, and the low tax return that we have recording in the nation with the resultant effect on how it's affecting the survival of businesses. Now, somebody will be like, the general notion will be when you don't pay tax, you save some money to be able to still run your business. No, it doesn't really work that way. The truth of the matter is illusionary. It's that all those things are illusionary. So we are set to get educated, get sensitized, and then get things corrected on this very note. So therefore, we have to invite some professionals in this field. In fact, one of the members of the presidential fiscal policy and presidential committee on fiscal policy and tax reform, will be joining us in person of Ms. Urire Jagbe, will be joining us alongside. So, and then we have Barrister Damilola Bamisile to also take the keynote speech. I want us to please note this one thing, that along the line, we'll have a kind of like case note to someone that will be telling us about his experience of not being tax compliant, and then the effect right now on him and his business especially. So we have a lot today to gain, and I want us to please sit back. One more thing before I welcome the keynote speaker. I want you to please pen down your questions everywhere. At the social media handle from which you are joining us, please type your questions in, and definitely we'll get them collected and responded to. You do us a favor to quickly get them penned down as soon as they are occurring to you. Or if you have some that you had penned down before, quickly type them in so that we'll be able to take note of them and then communicate the right people to respond to you. Once again, I want to welcome Barrister Damilola Bamisile to the Business Taxation and Formalization webinar of Oak Nation Entrepreneur Foundation. Thank you for honoring our invitation. Thank you for sparing time within your limited time, let me say, because of your tight schedule. We really appreciate this, and we know that we are doing this for the nation's, for the development of our nation, we are doing a kind of, it's national building, and we appreciate your gesture. We expect some concerned ministries, departments, and agencies of government to also join us. Hopefully they will, because we've made efforts to ensure that they do join us. Organizations like SMEDAN, FI, Federal Inland Revenue Services, and then a Corporate Affairs Commission, who are all concerned about this topical issue we are discussing right now. So thank you so much, and please kindly sit back, enjoy, ask your question, and let's make this meeting as interactive as possible. Thank you, Tolu. Over to you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for that beautiful welcome address. Right about now, our guest speaker is on board, but I guess she's having network issue. She was on board, but she logged the network yanked her off. I think she's trying to join in. While we wait for her to join in, I'll give you share our citation with us while we have wait her to join in. She just left me a message now that she's having network issues. You know that happens almost all of the time in Nigeria, having network issues. All right. While we wait for her, Damilola is a well-rounded and flexible professional with qualifications as a lawyer and chartered accountant, with 3 years cumulative experience in tax, consulting, regulatory compliance, and dispute resolution. Damilola is able to leverage on her experience to provide valuable insight on legal, tax, and regulatory issues to clients in various sectors. Damilola holds a first-class degree from the Nigerian Law School. She's an associate of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICANN, and she currently works as a consultant at the Price Waterhouse Coopers Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, can we welcome Barrister Damilola Bamishile? I guess she just came in now. I don't know what's happening. I guess our network is really, really bad. Apologies, I can see her trying to join in. I guess it's our network is really poor. Our network is still really bad. We truly apologize for this. Our network is really,
She's
really
on
bad.
board, please. She's on board, please.
Oh, she's on board. Oh, great. Great. She's trying to connect her audio.
Kindly retake our citation while she put herself together to take it.
Okay, sir. All right. Once again, I'll take citation of Barrister Damilola Bamishile. Damilola is a well-rounded and flexible professional with qualification as a lawyer and chartered accountant. With 3 years cumulative experience in tax, consulting, regulatory compliance, and dispute resolution, Damilola is able to leverage on experience to provide valuable insight on legal, tax, and regulatory issues to clients in various sectors. Damilola holds a first-class degree from the Nigerian Law School. She's an associate member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICANN, and she currently works as a consultant at the Price Waterhouse Coopers, that's the PwC Nigeria. Can we welcome Barrister Damilola Bamishile? Hi, Barrister Damilola, can you hear me? You are muted if you are speaking.
I think we lost her again. We can resume the.
She's in again.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear
Good.
me?
Yeah.
Great, we
Yes,
can
yes.
hear
Loud
you.
and clear.
Sorry about your network.
Honestly, it's been torture today. How are you guys doing?
We are good.
You're fine.
We are doing.
All right, thank you for the invite. So, is it time for me to go ahead? Because I didn't hear what was being said
Yes,
before.
time. Your citation was read a few minutes ago, so you can go on now.
Okay, that's fine. Welcome, everybody. So, how many people do we have on the call? Can we do like a quick introduction of everyone on the call? Just quickly.
Actually, our audience are on the social media platform. It's just the organizer that are on this Zoom call. Yes.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. All right. So, thank you for inviting me. So I'm going to be sharing my screen so that I'll project my slides. So I have slides prepared. So I just turned on my camera so you can see my face for a few minutes. Can I turn it off after a while? It will help with the network.
Right. Yes, okay. Yes. If that will help with the network, it's fine. It's fine to turn it off.
It's good. So after a while, I'll go off. Okay. So I'm trying to share my screen now. Just give me a minute. Okay. My network is really slow, but the devil is a liar.
You might stop your video so that it will support the share.
All right, that's fine. Okay, can you see my screen yet?
It's yet to show, yeah?
Yet to show?
Yeah, same.
Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see it now.
Yeah, so good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everybody to today's session. Thank you to the organizers for inviting me. Okay, so let's just get right into it. So let me start by saying that I actually have just a few minutes because I'm in the middle of a very tight deadline at work. So I would want to conclude fast. But please, as I'm presenting, if you have questions, you can note them down and then you can send to the organizers and I can maybe get it some other time and send answers to people. But for this call, I may not be able to take answers today. All right, so we're talking about taxes today. Fun facts, I work as a tax consultant. I like taxes so much, like I sleep, eat, breathe taxes, but I have a love-hate relationship with tax anyway. The love part is the fact that I just naturally like taxes. I like law. I'm a lawyer, so obviously I like law. And you know that like 90% of tax is about law. You cannot be a tax consultant and not know some kind of law. Even if you did not study law, you need to know the laws. So the hate part would be because, you know, laws are ever changing. When you think you know something, you wake up tomorrow and there's a new finance act, so you have to start reading all over again. You wake up tomorrow and you see that, oh, the president has signed one thing, so you have to start learning those taxes again. So yeah, I would say that taxes are very interesting. And then it's not just something we read in theory, it's something that applies to people, like it applies to our daily lives. You go to the supermarket to buy things and then you see VAT on your receipt, as a company, you think, oh, you're not making enough profits, but then there's still something to learn about taxes for everybody. So yeah, I put a brain teaser here because I like to start my presentations with brain teasers just to, lighten the mood. So here's the question. The organizers can volunteer to give a gift to anybody who gets the answer though. So who knows the answer? So what has cities but no houses? Hold on, I need to minimize this. Forest but no trees.
Check any of our participants have an answer for you.
Wow, this is great something. Cities but no houses.
Yeah.
Forest
Okay,
but
so
no trees. Water but no fish. Oh.
and it's one
I'm
single
checking
thing.
it.
Don't Google it. So I'm just going
No,
to
I'm
go
not
to the answer.
Googling. No, I'm checking
Okay.
the audience on the other this thing to see.
Okay, that's fine. Are there comments?
Not yet.
Not
Not
yet.
yet. From
Okay.
YouTube end, no.
Okay, so that's fine. Let's just proceed. Don't say you need it when I go to the answer. All right, so the answer is the map. So that's the answer, the map. Anyway, so let's just dive right into it. Right, so we're going to start our discussion today by talking about the incidence of multiple taxes in Nigeria. It's a problem for everybody. It's a problem for businesses, whether small or large businesses. It's a problem for tax consultants. It's a problem for individuals. There are a lot of taxes in Nigeria. And if you don't really understand what I mean by multiple taxes, I'm sure that in the next few slides, you would have your mouth open when I run through a list of some of the taxes that we have in Nigeria. So, yeah, as we all know, there are 3 tiers of government. There's the federal government, the state government, and the local government. So the same way the federal government wants to collect taxes from businesses, it's the same way the state government also wants to collect taxes from you. It's the same way the local government also feels entitled to get some kind of taxes from you. So I've made a list of some of the taxes that are being taken by the federal government. Right, so the first one is the company's income tax. We all know what that is. So before 2019, all businesses, would pay 30% of their tax, 30% CIT, that's company income tax, on their profit. So it doesn't matter if you made 100 million naira in a year. It doesn't matter if your profit was 500,000, you would pay 30%. Now, the Finance Act 2019 came and then said, you know what, let's create some kind of difference between small businesses and big businesses. So if your turnover, not your profit, your turnover, that means the revenue that you have made in a year, if you sell goods, the total amount that you have made from your goods, like the revenue that you have made. So if it is more than 25 million naira, you continue to pay the CIT at the rate of 30%. However, if you have not made up to 25 million naira in a year, then you don't pay any tax. So your CIT is at 0%. So what this then means is that it means that, as a company, when you're preparing your accounts, you have to cross-check to see what revenue you have made in a year. So if it is not up to 25 million naira, you have no obligation to pay CIT. So I would then need to point out that the exemption for small businesses doesn't mean that, you don't have anything to do with the FIRS, that's the Federal Inland Revenue Service. It doesn't mean that, you don't need to do anything. No, even if you don't have any tax to pay, you have to file. So companies that are incorporated in Nigeria have an obligation to file their taxes on the 30th of June of every year. So whether or not your liability is 0, whether or not you're going to pay any tax, you have to still file. So even if your profit in a year was 1,000 naira, you have the obligation to file with the FIRS. So second type of tax here is the withholding tax on companies. residents of Federal Capital Territory. So remember that we're talking about taxes that are being collected by the federal government, right? So withholding tax is a separate type of, okay, so I wouldn't say it's a separate type of tax. It's an advance payment of your CIT, that's your company income tax. So withholding tax means that, you know, when you provide a service to anybody, whether an individual or like a company. So I'll use PwC as an example. So when you as an individual, when you come to PwC and you say you want PwC to help you with your taxes, for instance, to, you know, help you compute your taxes. When you, let's say the fee for that service is 100,000 naira, right? So PwC has said, you know what, I'll prepare your taxes for you, but you have to pay 100,000 naira. By law, whether you're an individual, a small business, or a big company, by law, you have to withhold some of that amount and pay it to the FIRS on behalf of PwC. That's what withholding tax means. So if the fee is 100,000 naira, it means that the only thing you can pay to PwC is 95,000, right? You have to withhold 5% of that and pay it to the FIRS on behalf of PwC. So it means that small businesses have an obligation to withhold from their invoices. So when you have vendors and those vendors are giving you invoices to pay, the first thing you should do when you're paying when you're going to pay money to that company or whoever is providing services to you as a small business, the first thing you should do is say, you can inform them, but I'm sure they already know, but you have to let them know that, you know, by law, you have an obligation to withhold part of that money. You cannot pay them the full amount. So you withhold and pay it to them. So if it's a company, if the service is being provided by a company limited by liability, that's a company incorporated in Nigeria, you have to withhold and remit it to the federal government. And if it's for services, it would usually be at 10%. But let's not go into the technical part. But then if a company is providing a service to you as a small business, let's say you need some plumbing work, something as basic as that, you need some plumbing work in your office building. And the plumber is a company, like the plumber has a company. So it's a plumbing company. Now, when you're paying, let's say it's 100,000 naira, when you're paying 100,000 naira, you have to withhold 10% on that, being that it's a company. You withhold 10% and pay the remaining 900,000 or 90,000 to the service provider. Then you remit the 10% to the federal government. Now, if it's, okay, we're going to get to that. We're going to get state government. That's for companies, right? So we also have the value added tax. This is a common type of tax. I believe everybody knows what that means. It means that as you consume your goods, you have to be paying taxes as you're buying biscuit and you're eating it, you have to pay taxes on those biscuits. As you're buying things from supermarkets, you have to pay taxes and the likes. Even on services as well, you have to pay VAT on your services received, right? So the exemption for small companies in terms of VAT is that if you're a small company, meaning that if you earn less than 25 million naira in a year, you don't have an obligation to put VAT on your invoice. Now, I would explain this. It means that you're a small company, your revenue in a year is not up to 25 million. When you provide services to your customers, you don't have an obligation to charge VAT, right? I don't know if this is clear. You don't have an obligation to charge VAT. Now, the technical part of this would be that the company that you gave your invoice to would have to self-charge, but that's by the way. But as a small company earning less than 25 million naira in a year, you don't have an obligation to charge your customers VAT. As simple as that, to charge VAT on your invoices, right? So tertiary education tax, that's at 2.5% of PBT, profits before tax. We have capital gains tax. This is payable when you have disposed of an asset. You know, you've sold an asset, you have to pay capital gains tax on that. That's putting it mildly. Then there's stamp duties. Stamp duties is payable on all documents. There's no exemption for small companies. You can be an individual, you can be a small company, you can be a big company. You have to pay stamp duties on your transactions. So, for instance, when you enter into like a rent agreement, typically you have to pay stamp duties on that. When you have maybe a shareholders agreement, your company is growing now, so you want to get some shareholders. When you give them that agreement, you have to pay stamp duties at the required rate, right? So we also have personal income taxes. This is payable by a company on behalf of its employees. So what the Personal Income Tax Act says is that certain employee taxes, because we have a number of them, we have, NSITF, we have payee, we have a number of personal income taxes like under this bracket. So what the law says is that if you have a minimum of 5 employees, then most of these taxes are paid by the employer. But I mean, just for good practice, regardless of the number of employees, it's important to remit personal income taxes for your employees. You withhold some of it and then you remit for them, right? So this is just to say that usually the federal government has no business with personal income tax. So anything that concerns an individual, it's not the federal government's business. But now these are the categories of people that, that have to remit their personal income tax to the federal government, right? So we have members of the armed forces, we have, members of the Nigerian police force, we have residents in the Federal Capital Territory, and then we have staff. Then we also have the National Information Technology Development Levy. So this is for the big boys. It's not really a concern for small businesses. So for you to be liable to pay this tax, you must have earned 100 million naira in a year. So your revenue must be 100 million naira. All right. Next slide. So these are some of the taxes. This is not everything. So this is some of the taxes that the state government would want to collect. And by state government, we would be referring to the Internal Revenue Service for every state. So if you live in Lagos, for instance, you would be thinking of the Lagos State Internal Revenue Service. So like I said before, payee personal income taxes typically paid to the state governments. The state governments, the state in which the employee is resident. So if you have employees in Ogun State, you have to remit their personal income tax to Ogun State as long as they are residents there. If you have employees that are residents in Lagos, obviously you remit the payee to the Lagos State government. Then withholding tax. So if the provider of the service is an individual or like a business name, right? That's why I use the example of PwC, because PwC is registered as a chartered accountancy firm, which means it's not a company limited by liability. So for these categories of people, you have to remit their taxes, their withholding tax to the state government. So I'm going to run along because of time. But before then, let me mention number 7. Number 7 talks about business premises registration fee. So as long as you have a business premise in any state, the state is entitled to charge you business premises registration fee. So it varies from state to state. It also varies from, urban areas to rural areas, depending on, wherever your business premise is located. So the fees aren't so, they are not so large. It ranges from 5,000 naira to, I think, 50,000 naira. Not too sure of that. So it depends on the state, right? So we have development levy and the likes. Alrighty. So moving to taxes and levies for collection by the local governments. These are just some of them. We have the shops. So when you have a shop, you have to pay certain rates to the local government. Slaughter slab, that's for people who sell, meats and stuff. When you have to, get your marriage certificates and stuff, you have to pay a fee to the local government. That's a form of tax. Number 9 says motor park levies. This is interesting because if you live in Lagos, you know of the agberos, the people who collect money from drivers and stuff. Even though 90% of the time they don't remit to the local government, but it's within the purview of the local government to collect this type of tax. Right. So I just try to limit this to certain taxes, including their rates. I think we've covered most of this. Yeah, so we can then move on. Right. So I then streamlined it further to small businesses. So as a small business, what should you be thinking about? You should be thinking about, company income tax. Sorry, you shouldn't be thinking about company income tax. I take that back. So pre-2019, you would think about companies income tax. But for now, small businesses are exempted. So there is no obligation to remit companies income tax. For value-added tax as well, remember that I mentioned the 25 million naira threshold. So if your revenue is up to 25 million naira in a year, there's no obligation to charge VAT. But remember that when you're a small business, you still have to pay VAT in a sense, because when you want to buy goods from a supermarket as a business, they would not exempt you from VAT on the ground that you're a small business. The only thing is when you're selling your own goods, you don't have to charge. This doesn't mean that you wouldn't register for taxes. I need to say that because it's very important. Whether or not you're exempted from the type of tax doesn't stop you from registering. In fact, you should register, you should file new returns. So you're saying, for companies income tax, for instance, you are saying that I am a small business. I don't have an obligation to pay taxes, but I have to register my presence with the FIRS. I have to, get a tax identification number. I have to file every year. So whether or not you're paying taxes, it is still an obligation to register and to file. Whether or not you're paying VAT, you still have the obligation to register, get your TIN, and to file. So for withholding taxes, you have to withhold when you have vendors who, render services to you, who sell goods in bulk to you. You have to withhold from them, right? Same goes for when you provide a service. So as a small business, when you provide a service, the people you're providing the service to would still withhold from your fees. That's what the law says. So it is an obligation on the person receiving the service to withhold. So the person receiving the service would not say, oh, yeah, they don't know how much you make in a year. So they're not going to say, oh, you're a small company, we're not going to withhold from you. They would withhold from your fees. You have provided, let's say, legal services as a small business. You provided legal services to somebody. When the person wants to pay you, they are well within their rights to withhold an amount from what they are paying and remit on your behalf to the tax government, whether or not you're exempted from CIT or not. That's what the law says. So lastly, you have to pay attention to state taxes. I mean, the basis for some of these taxes are even for small businesses. When you see things like, there's something I saw recently. Yeah, when you see things of slaughter fees and stuff, so it even targets small businesses. So you definitely should pay attention to state government taxes. Right. So now we're moving to what's changing in Nigeria. Like I said, the tax space is ever evolving. You sleep one day and then you wake up tomorrow, you already have 4 executive orders. You sleep today, by tomorrow, you're already hearing that there's a committee for something. You sleep today, you wake up tomorrow, you're already hearing that there's a new finance act. So today we're going to be talking about some of the things that are changing in the tax space. So the first thing here is the Finance Act 2023. So for Finance Act 2023, there are some changes which we'll talk about later, but it's important to know that when President Buhari was about to leave office, so let me give a bit of background before then. So since 2019, we have been having Finance Acts every year, every single year, every year there will be Finance Act. So right now we have Finance Act 2019, Finance Act 2020, Finance Act 2021, then 2023. Now, this is the practice. So at the end of each year, the president and the lawmakers would review the current tax laws, and say that they would say that let's make some changes to the law. Let's let's increase this rate. Let's reduce this rates. Let's introduce more sections and stuff. So that's what the Finance Act basically does, right? So as at 2022, they were supposed to release a Finance Act for 2022. But I think because of the elections and everything that was happening at the same time, they just, sort of postponed it. So it kept, they kept pushing. So there was a Finance Bill 2022. Then it just happened that the president never signed it until the elections were over. So as at May 2023, just when the elections were over and then there was about to be a transition of power, President Buhari then said, this is the best time to sign Finance Act 2023. So he then signed it in the middle of May and then said the act will take effect from 1st of May, which means that, people were given very little to no notice, as to what was changing in the law. So that's that. I'll still go to more details later. The second thing that we'll talk about is the executive orders that were signed by President Tinubu, right? So we have a slide for that. Then the third thing is the new committee that was incorporated recently. So can anybody tell me what the committee is relating to tax, fiscal policy kind of thing? So is there any comments?
No,
None
please.
yet.
Please, no, please.
All right, that's fine. So is there anybody on the call that wants to attempt? All right, so have you guys heard of Taiwo Yedele?
Yes, he's the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal
That's the
Policy.
committee. That's the committee I was asking about. So I mean, it's been in the news for the past 3 weeks everywhere. Fiscal committee, Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax
Policy and
Reforms.
Tax Reforms.
I already have a member of the committee on the call.
Really?
Yes.
So who is
we
that?
have a member of the committee. That's Ms. Orire Agbaje.
Oh, she's on the call.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is she here or she's on YouTube?
She's on this Zoom.
right in here.
Right here.
Oh, hi. Oh, I'm so excited to have you here. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
All right, that's fine. Okay. So so we have that committee, and then like I said, Taiwo is the head of the committee, is the chairman of the committee. Right. So let's move to the next slide. Yes, so I just picked some of the highlights of the Finance Act 2023. So education tax used to be, or it's still 2.5%. Now it's going to be 3%. We have, so before now, we had something called the investment allowance. So when you buy as a business, when you buy, plants and equipment, you're entitled to deduct 10% of the cost of that investment, deduct it from your profits and then tax your remaining profits. So it's sort of an incentive to reduce your taxes, because when you charge them, let's say you buy an equipment for 10 million naira, when you charge the investment allowance of 10%, you add it to your cost, it then reduces the taxes you're paying, but that's a technical discussion. So now the Finance Act 2023 is saying you no longer have investment allowance on your plants and equipment. Now, digital assets are now chargeable assets under the capital gains tax. So before now, usually what you would pay CGT on would be things like, maybe you sell your furniture, you sell like a building and stuff like that. That's what you would typically pay CGT on. But now you have to pay CGT on your digital assets as well. Let's say, I think we're done with this. So this is not really important to small companies in the sense that, many large businesses, they import goods from outside Africa, sometimes from within Africa. But then the Finance Act is now saying that as a business, when you import goods from outside Africa, you have to pay an additional excise levy of 0.5% on the cost of the goods. Now, there is excise duties that is now payable on services. So before now, if you provide a service, you would definitely be thinking of VAT, thinking of withholding tax. But now, you have to think of excise duties as well. Right, so the 4 executive orders that were issued by the new president of the country. So in summary, we have the Finance Act effective date variation order of 2023. Remember that I said when I was talking about the Finance Act that, it was supposed to take effect from 1st of May. Now, the effective date has been moved to 1st of September 2023. That's to give enough notice to people. The second thing is the Customs Excise Tariff Amendment Order 2023, which was then postponed from 27th of March to 1st of August. Then the excise duty excise tax that was supposed to be payable on telecommunication service has now been suspended. Then we also had some green taxes, on vehicles emitting, carbon and stuff. Now that has been suspended as well. So the key impact of this is that, people now have more time to adjust their business to accommodate the new taxes that are going to be implemented by the Finance Act. Yeah. So the third thing is the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. Right, so like I said, Taiwo is the chairman, and if there's something I know about Taiwo is that he's very passionate about, harmonizing multiple taxes in Nigeria. So some of the things that we should expect from these committees that, they would review all the tax laws that we have in Nigeria and then come up with, some kind of way to harmonize those taxes. I think I heard somewhere that the plan is for the committee to reduce the number of taxes to a single digit. So you can then count on your hands how many taxes we have in Nigeria. That's quite ambitious, but I mean, it's very possible. So you won't have to be paying multiple levies. They would be harmonized as, fewer taxes. Then unification of revenue collection functions and agencies. So right now we have different functions, different revenue collection, let's say committee or bodies. We have the FIRS, we have the state IRS, and some other, mini bodies. So the idea now is to have just one, or maybe very few revenue collection functions, meaning that, if you're thinking of paying your taxes, you're thinking of one body to pay to, you're thinking of at most maybe 2 or 3 collection agencies to pay to. Another thing we should expect the committee to do is to simplify the tax system to make sure that, we adequately take use of, take advantage of technology. Right now, the only technology I would say that, we have adopted in Nigeria that seems to be working is the Tax Pro Max, right? So that's where we file taxes for companies. So for Tax Pro Maxes, so for your withholding tax, which you remit every month, VAT, which you remit every month, it means that before the deadline of the 21st, you go to that portal, you fill in your schedule, okay, tell the FIRS how much you've made this month, how much your VAT is, and then you then generate some kind of invoice and then you go to pay. That's how it works. So it's a very good development. I think it was introduced 2-3 years ago, not sure. So, I mean, we can have more of that. We can have more technology to just simplify the tax system in Nigeria. Right. So another thing that we expect from the committee is that, there'll be more fairness for small businesses, just like, how the Finance Act 2019 came and then said, if you're a small business, you don't have an obligation to pay taxes. Same way, we expect that, more incentives will come out for small businesses and then they would be less burdened with paying taxes. Remove tax provisions which serve as impediments to investment and business growth. That's similar. Then one very important thing is that the committee hopes to achieve a GDP ratio, tax to GDP ratio of 18% by 2026. Quite ambitious, but it is doable. It is doable. So I think that's the end of my presentation. I don't know if I have time to take one or two questions, or we could just do what I said earlier. We could just compile them and then I can answer them later. Let me know if you need the slides as well. So thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Barrister Dama. Thank you so much. This is, let me just say, simplify the tax 101.
I know, right?
And then you were, you know what you're saying, simple as ABC. Let me just say it that way. Just as though you're drinking water, taking breath, relax. And thank you so much. This is quite appreciated. Quite appreciated.
Thank you guys for joining.
Please, all right. Please, if you can afford to answer question, I think there are two questions I saw from YouTube. Tolu, is there another one you got? There's two questions. One person asked them. Can I come on?
Please, can you check your chat, sir?
Yeah. Okay. Can I check? I'm not.
Sorry, what did you say?
Tolu is saying something. I didn't hear it.
Yeah, I sent a message to your chat.
Okay, then continue from there.
So I think what we can do is so that we can have a more. Sorry, what did you say?
I think we can release you now. We will get back to you on questions from our audience as the needs arise. Thank you so very much for coming.
All right, that's fine. So I'll be leaving now. Bye, guys.
All right, thank you so very much. We'll get back to you, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, thank you for that session. So we have some questions, like my executive director said. There are some questions from the YouTube audience, and Miss Oriri Agbaje is here to answer them. So I'll just read the questions out. The two we have at the moment, and we anticipate more while we proceed with this scope. Yeah, the first question is this. I have a question. What business model pays more tax? Is that the sole proprietorship, the partnerships, or the companies? So, Ms. Uriwe, if you can hear me, that question is directed to you. And the question is, what business model pays more tax? The sole proprietorship, the partnerships, or the companies? Would you mind?
Okay, good evening, everyone. I think I'll just take it one by one.
Great, you can go on. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. So for that question, I would say is companies, because companies have people that they owe explanation. They have shareholders, so they have to audit their accounts. They have to paste their financials online, and these companies are assessed through their financials. So the FIRS, the Inland Revenue Services, they get to audit this company through their financials. So if the company say, "Oh, we are earning 3 million naira," they will be able to attest to that by checking their financials. So they'll be able to okay, this is the amount of taxes that they would be charged. But for sole proprietorship and partnership, they don't really get to audit their accounts, whereby they don't even have much activities to say where they'll be taxed. So I think it's companies that are taxed more compared to other models.
All right, thank you very much. So the second question is, do businesses pay tax to both the federal and state? All right. Do businesses pay tax to both the federal and state government every year simultaneously? If a business pays to the federal government, do they have to pay to the state government too? That's two questions in one. I'll come again. Do business pay tax to both the federal and state governments every year simultaneously? And the second part of the question is, if a business pays to the federal government, do they have to pay to the state government too? Did you get
Okay,
that?
so yes, I got that.
All
So
right,
a
great.
little bit of backstory. I think before last year, businesses pay both to the federal and to the state government. So there was a bit of controversy concerning who should be collecting these taxes and these taxes. So I think last year, or was it last year, they were able to reach a consensus that the state government should collect certain taxes in which they're going to remit to the federal government. So it's now left for business owners to know what taxes they're remitting to the state government or to the federal government. I would answer the second question with my next statement. If you are supposed to pay to the state government and you pay to the federal government, there's no justification to it because the state government is the one that's supposed to collect that tax. So it's just for you to be knowledgeable in who is collecting what. So the multiplicity of tax that was happening before has been reduced, whereby businesses are paying to both federal and state governments. So you just have to know which one is collecting what, so you don't overpay or underpay.
All right, great. Thank you so very much, Miss Oriwe. Before we round that would be all the questions for now. I don't think there's any more questions. I've not seen any from any of our platform. You give me a few seconds. Let me check all around again. Okay. All right. There's no question from our Twitter account, from our Instagram, none either. From our YouTube, none again. And from our LinkedIn, none yet. All right. Great. So that will be all. So before you go, Miss Oriwe, can you just say something as a member of the newly formed committee on the taxation and fiscal policies, and also as the president of the tax club in Nigerian universities? Would you have anything you want to say to MSMEs and NMSMEs as well before we release you?
Okay, I have a few things. Although the guest speaker was able to touch on a lot of things, I myself had something to pen down. But I just want to say a few things as you have said. So as a business owner, I think you should learn the following: compliance to certain tax laws within your jurisdiction. So know the taxes you're supposed to pay, because sometimes consultants that business employ are not all-encompassing, and that might bring future problems to the business. So you know what you're doing, so that when there is a breach, you'll be able to correct it. So don't be dependent on consultants or a tax expert that you have employed. Financial planning and budgeting. So when you're doing your financial planning, maybe for the year or monthly, always factor in tax liabilities, because taxes will take a little bit of your income. And when you don't factor them into your financial planning, they bring about shock. And as a small business that is growing, it can affect your business growth. So in order to prepare for any risk assessment, you factor in tax liabilities when you're having your financial planning and budgeting. Also have knowledge of available deduction, credit, and incentive that can empower businesses. I was aware that I think last year there was this law for startups that President Muhammad Buhari did, whereby there were incentive and other attractive benefits. So as a founder or as a business owner, when you're aware of these things, you'll be able to know how to structure your business to partake in incentive like this. So be knowledgeable in that area too. and also have financial transparency to key stakeholders. I know as sole proprietorship or partnership, unlike limited liability companies whereby they have shareholders that they're accountable to, small businesses don't have that large people. But it's really good for you to be accountable from now, because the main aim is for you to get your business to be well known and to be large enough. So when you're being accountable and transparent from now, it gets easier when you get there. And you might also have other stakeholders. It might be your family, it might be your friend. You can start the accountability from there. Little things like that count when the business gets bigger. As an entrepreneur, dedicate time to educate yourself about basic taxation concepts, laws, and relevant requirements to the industry and your location. So sometimes some of the taxes in Lagos State might not be some of it that are practiced in, let's say, Rivers or in Calabar. So you need to know some of all these things so that you are not ignorant of it. Because law ignorance or negligence is not an excuse to form victim in today's world. Seek professional guidance to access invaluable insights. As I said earlier, you might seek this professional guidance, but you yourself too should know a little so you know where there is a fault somewhere. And lastly, stay up to date to current happening in the market and in Nigeria. Also, the microeconomic indicators. So let's say inflation increased to this amount. You can say, oh, how does it affect my business? How does it affect my customers, my financial plan for the year or for the month? How is this going to be altered? Some of this thinking will allow you to have to mitigate the shock to your business, especially with this subsidy now. When the subsidy came up, some businesses don't even know how to even start. Some don't even have any plan. They're just going with the vibes and inshallah. But as a business owner that is deliberate about what you want to achieve, you should be able to say, okay, this subsidy, how will it affect me? You make a plan A, B, C, D, E, that, okay, if it goes like this, this is how I'm going to do it, and I'll still have my profit. And just be all encompassing and don't be ignorant of anything. You are not, tax law is something everybody should know. And as a business owner, it is pertinent for you to know this because it will affect your business and your profit. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
You can go on, sir.
All right, thank you, Tolu. Thank you, Riri. We quite appreciate you for coming around. Thank you so much. Okay, please, I want to say it this way, moving on. I want to say it this way, moving on. Apology. So, I want to say this thing, moving on. The tax, on tax education especially, and sensitization, that I feel that is the university students and the youth in general who are knowledgeable about tax that can do this thing for the nation, for our country. I mean, the issue of providing tax education at this very point in time, because the next person that will talk after now, who is member of our board and then who is an entrepreneur, was saying some things today that is very, very touchy, right? Which is basically as a result of not having education about tax. And it's expensive as it is right now. Not, I mean, to be ignorant of it. So moving on, and we do something, one foundation with a tax, tax club in the universities. I don't know, I think it's only OAU and UI that I know that is in the club. I don't know coverage. I don't know. Sorry. Okay, so I don't know if there are other universities perhaps cover your coverage of the tax club coverage perhaps is throughout Nigerian university. But then if it's not, I think there's need for expansion. And then with it, we can partner from one foundation and partner with a tax club in Nigerian universities to ensure that we at least provide this tax education. What do you think?
Yes, I agree. That would be really great. that's why the university community is encouraging everyone to have this knowledge of tax. Yes, tax club is spread all over the university, even polytechnic now. They have tax club. Yes,
And
that
it's
would
under
be a
your
very meaningful partnership. Yes. And just to put it out there, so the Tax Club University of Ibadan, we started a podcast on basic tax laws. So that might also serve as basis of knowledge to the general public.
good. Okay. The twist to it, please, pardon me. We moving on. The twist to it is that what language are you using to pass this? For your podcast, I believe it to be English,
Yes,
right?
it's English, but it's not all
And
formal. It's in
so
like a
meaning is not
relaxed.
inclusive, right? It
Sorry,
means
I
that,
didn't get that.
if it's English you're using all through, that means that the tax education is not inclusive for now, because not all business owners understand English. That's what. So
Yes, they can be provisioned over time, but we're just starting with that since that's like a general communication
yes,
language.
agreed. So I'm looking into the issue of expansion further too. So it's good that we have tax club all over the country, in the universities, and then even polytechnics and all that, and they are under your control. We'll pursue the issue of partnership. After now, I'll talk with you, please.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right, Tolu, please.
All right, thank you so very much for that conversation. So to wrap up this call, we are going to bring on one of our board members who shared a very touchy story with me this morning, and I'd like you to share it with the general populace so that you can know what's at stake with your taxation as regards your business. So he's here, he's an elder brother, he's an uncle, he's a boss, and I'll bring him on board. Mr. Inka Babala, can you speak to the audience now?
Hi,
A respectable member of our
everybody.
thank you.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
Okay, awesome. I just wanted to be sure because I'm wearing a nose mask, but you can't see that. So, it's been an enlightening session, and I wish I heard this a couple of years back. Yeah, and all that. So I had some back and forth with FIRS this past week, and I just realized how ignorant my partners and I were with all our taxation and co. So first of all, I have like 3-4 businesses registered. So the personal one I run delisted from CSC because I wasn't filing their own normal returns. That's not even taxation out of there. But the other one we thought, okay, let's use this for some business, right? We registered the business like 10 years ago, but we weren't doing anything with it. Like they said, like Mr. Rafa said, ignorance is not an excuse. We weren't doing anything with it. But you know how Nigerians do. I have one account I don't use. You can use it. So some good monies had moved through it and all that. So I went to FIRS thinking I was going to get in, collect the tax identification number, and then get out of the office. Then I got in and they started all sorts. They were making a lot of demands. And I'm like, is it this difficult? I thought I'll spend 10 minutes here and get my tax identification number. Long story short, they said that we've been robbing the government for the past 10 years and that we should go and generate the account statement. If we claim we've not been doing anything with the business, and then they will now calculate value added tax on some of the transactions we've had, especially those ones with narrations that they can pin down and stuff like that. I just looked at my guys. I'm like, this just eat the rock. Let's leave this particular entity and let's shift to the other one that we have. At least this other one we have seen, and then we know the exact types of tax to pay per time. Much as you would think you know, there are some things that you don't know. You know, like I always say, you don't realize how much you don't know until you try to know much more. So, my people, everybody listening, go ahead and get this knowledge. In fact, can they make this recording available to us? Because I even personally need to listen to it over and over again because there were a lot of insights that dropped. Despite the education I've still been trying to garner since FIRS showed me I knew nothing about taxation like that. So that was the horrible experience. Just imagine throwing away a business name that you, not a business name, a brand name that you've used for about 10 years. I wasn't using it so actively, but once in a while we used it. But this brand name we're used to, and we're about to pump in some energy into pushing that brand for it to be known everywhere. Just imagine losing it. Just imagine losing a name that people have associated with you, although you've not pushed it so much. Just imagine it just because of taxation. And then if I have to pay now, they'll say I should pay about close to ₦1 million. That's for taxation's sake. Corporate Affairs Commission would also say I should pay close to 170,000 naira. If I do not have a big project at hand, people, it's not going to make sense to pay that. So take this seriously. You might think you are small now. You don't know where you are going to be the next few months. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk.
Thank you so very much, sir. Thank you so very much. All right, I'll hand over to my executive director now. He's on the he's still on the call. Please, can we wrap up this meeting? That's an amazing.
I'm still on the call. Thank you so much. It's been an awesome section all along. Very, very awesome session. Thank you so much, everyone. The people that joined from various social media platforms, it's wow. I mean, those following back to back. Thank you to Barrister Damlola Bamishile. Thank you to Ms. Oruri Agbaje, the president of the tax club in the universities in Nigeria, and then member of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform. Thank you to Sir Yinka Balola, one of the members of the board. Thank you to the president and then the team members that are here. Tolu Wedon. Everyone, it's been a long day and it's good and perfect to call it a day at this very point. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you so very much. Now we have come to the end of Open Business Webinar August 2023. Please keep in touch with us via our social medias. We also have a mailing community that we send resources to on a weekly basis. We will be in touch with everyone. Thank you so very much for joining from wherever you joined from, and do have a lovely day.